everyone, I'm Adrianne and welcome to Yoga for Runners. This is a short 20-minute video to help you stay healthy and to help you keep running. So I like to think of it as something you maybe do on your off days or maybe as a warm-up before your run or a cool down for after your run. So let's get started. What you're going to need is a belt. So if you have a belt, you can grab it now. And it's not critical, but I am going to be speaking to options to use the belt. What I would also recommend is having at least one block, foam block, cork block, whatever works for you. And finally, having some sort of support, whether it's a bolster, a blanket, a pillow, a cushion that you can lean or lay against for some of the restorative stretching postures at the end. So let's get started here. The first pose we're going to do is for the feet. So as runners, you know how important it is to have the feet in a healthy way. If you've ever had plantar fasciitis or other issues, you know how difficult it can be when your feet are in pain. So what we're going to do with this first posture is to have the toes tucked. So tucking the toes so that they're underneath the heel. And when you start to lean back, you might feel that the weight causes the heels to go apart, or the tension in your calves and your ankles causes the heels to go apart. So if that's the case, what you'll do is you'll take your belt and you'll place it around your ankles. So it's something you want to step into maybe prior to leaning forward. And I'm going to lean here where it's a bit more comfortable. And you bring the belt as tight as you can tolerate to try and keep those ankles together. So toes tucked, we start to sit back towards the heels. I like to use my hands on blocks, especially when I was first doing this pose, learning this pose. For my body, it was all kinds of pain. I was more here. So this might be where you're at right now. So you could either have your hands on blocks and support yourself here, or you could even place a little cushion or a big cushion underneath so you can sit a bit taller if you're finding you're getting some knee pain. So a few options there, but there's no way around it. It's uncomfortable. We're stretching the fascia in the feet, the connective tissue in the feet, and that can be really uncomfortable at times. So bringing that belt as tight as you can tolerate and making sure the clip isn't digging into your bones in your ankles. And then we start to settle into it. So it seems kind of odd to be centering in pain, but nothing brings you more present than pain. So let's just take a deep breath in and exhale, relax your shoulders down. And if you're a runner, you know a little bit about being in discomfort. So you know that moment before you quit, that moment where you could go either way. You could stop and walk, or you could push through that last hill. You might draw upon those skills, that ability here. But instead of pushing, we are going to soften and let go into this discomfort. The more we force, the more rigid we get, the more discomfort we might feel here. And this tends to be a slow build. So you now might start to feel a bit more sensation in the arch of the feet. You might feel a little bit more in the calves or the shins. You might feel a lot of intensity in the joints of the feet. If you find it's sharp pain, don't stay in it. But if it's that dull ache, that tends to be what connective tissue can feel like sometimes. So we'll stay here for 2 more slow breaths. As you inhale through the nose, feel the rib cage widen. And as you exhale through the nose, feel the shoulders relax down. One more time. Then inhale to come forwards. Now with this, we'll turn the ankles the other way. But it's the same idea. We want the heels to be towards each other as we sit down towards the heels. So this actually tends to be as intense, if not more intense, for some people. It's a lot easier when the heels go apart. But when we keep the feet in alignment, we have a lot more discomfort. And this mimics that push-off phase in your running. So many of us circumduct. We toe off when we run and we keep rotating at the hip. and we start to develop a lot of tension in our hips, IT bands and that. So this motion in the ankle, being able to push straight back, will also give you a bit more power in your stride, but also less discomfort hopefully in your hips and in your IT band. So I'm distracting you hopefully from some of the discomfort that is there, but we'll stay here again, slowing your breath. The same options exist. You could have a bolster in between your ankles and your hips. Some of you might actually need, I'll show you here the next few breaths, but if you're in it, stay. Some of you might need a little surface here, a little foamy little blanket right underneath the ankle joint to ease this a bit. So if it's excruciating, if you find there's sharp pain, then ease it a bit with a bit of a support. For those that can stay, please stay. One more breath. Inhale. Exhale. Then inhale to come up. Release the belt, if you were using it, off to the side. Okay, so this next one is again focusing on the feet and ankles. This one we will cross the shin over top of the calf muscle. So it's the large bulky part of the muscle is up here. We're going just below that, just above the Achilles tendon. And as you sit down, you might sit on the heel. It might be slightly off to the side, but find that point where you feel, okay, that's the trigger point. So your shin bone is pressing into the trigger point of the bottom calf. So from the front, we'll try and do this so that both knees stay down. What this sometimes looks like is this. So we want to kind of not sit into this. And if you are pregnant, don't do this posture. We don't want any pressure on the pelvic floor area. But if you're not pregnant, unfortunately, this is a good one to do. So find that point where you can start to round and sit back into it. Slow the breath in. Deepen the breath out. And inhale to rise up. Switch to the other side. I have to tell you, it's been a while since I've done this as well, and I've been doing a little bit more running, and there's no question, this is a good one to do. These muscles of the calves, especially the tibialis posterior and the soleus muscle in the calves, they get really tight. So this side now gets its turn. 3 breaths here, equal weight on both sitting bones, the knees press down, and try your best in this discomfort to stay calm. Isn't that such a hard thing to do, to stay calm when things are uncomfortable? One more breath in and out. Then inhale to come up. Reach your arms up, stretch that out. Inevitably there's tension with that. And exhale, release. Then we'll come forwards onto hands and knees. And we'll start in this tabletop position. So the wrists will be under the shoulders, the knees underneath the hips. Shoulders down and back, tuck your toes. And now lift your knees to hover. So keeping the belly button to spine, the shoulders away from your ears and your jaw relaxed. Starting to engage the abdominal muscles. This is what we need, a level pelvis, a strong core to support the running position, the running technique, and to stabilize the pelvis and the spine. Then lift your hips back, downward facing dog. So you might walk your hands a bit more forward, but you might even need to walk the posture out, just allowing the head and neck to relax, to hang, and then really starting to stretch your chest, really starting to connect into the legs, the heels starting to stretch down. Breathe in, breathe out. Then inhale, come down to hands and knees. And we'll set up for our lunge position. So if you do have a surface that's a bit harder, you want to place a soft blanket under your bottom knee, grab that blanket now. And grab 2 blocks or 1 block if you have it. So step your right leg forward, your left knee is going to be down. And have 1 block handy. So 1 block is for sure going to support the hand. And as a bonus, you'll take the second block to go underneath the front hip. So this can be quite low for some people. So what I would recommend then, I'll back up a bit here, is to maybe stack the blocks. The reason I'm speaking to having a block here is that we can then stay without having to hold the position with our muscles, so that we can stay and really work on the length, the connective tissue. And so in this position, I'd like you to bring, so my right leg is up, my left knee is down. I'm going to try and bring my left hip forward. So as I inhale, I come tall, and as I exhale, I'm really putting force through my left hand to bring that left hip forward, just to bring myself to a neutral pelvis. So as I inhale, I lengthen the spine. As I exhale, I stay here and maintain this position. I'm feeling this right here. So this is to stretch the uppermost part of your hip flexor. And then if you need more, then you raise your left arm up and you side bend towards the right. So not just straight to the side, I'm going back and angling to the side so that I can again isolate that psoas muscle. Stay here, breathing in, and stay breathing out. Then inhale to come forwards, and then we'll switch to the other side. So setting up the same way you did, having the right knee down now, your left hip resting on the blocks. This might be the tighter side, this might be your more open side, just meeting it exactly where it's at. I need to do a visual check on the side that's usually tighter because there's always some interesting things happening behind me. Then taking that right hand and press the right hip forward. You should really start to feel this through here. Taking a breath in and a breath out. Staying here, inhale. Staying, exhale. Inhale. Exhale. For the last few breaths, inhale, lift your right arm up. Exhale, side bend towards the left and slightly backwards. Stay, breathe in. And stay, breathe out. Inhale, come back to center and release. Okay. So this next pose we're going to do is for the hips, for those tight hip muscles. So what I would recommend is sitting on a smaller surface, a softer surface. If you have a little foamy, or you can roll a blanket up a few times. We don't want it to be too high, not as high as a block. And just the bottom half or back half of my bottom is going to rest there. And what that does is it creates that position of my pelvis coming forward slightly into a neutral position instead of a tail tuck position, so that I can root down through my sitting bones. So let's bring the right leg down like so. So you'll angle it so that the shin is parallel to the front of your mat. And if you're tighter like me, you're going to need another block to support. And then crossing, trying to stack both shins. So I like to support my top leg initially. So finding that position that, for me that feels okay. And we don't want to feel anything sharp, especially with the hips. We don't want to feel like there's a referred pain into the groin. We just want to feel like, it is intense, but it's not that pain that makes you want to run out of the room. So we want this to feel like a 5 out of 10 for a stretch. There's no question when we start to get into those deep areas in the hips, the intensity is there. So let's place the hands behind us, beside you slightly, and take a breath in, coming tall. And as you breathe out, begin to lean forward. And you might be thinking, am I supposed to be feeling this in both sides of my hips? You might be. So if you are, you're not alone in that. Many people do. And stay here, breathe in, and stay, breathe out. If there's any knee pain, try flexing the ankles on both feet. And if that reduces the knee pain, great. If you still have knee pain, then come out. But we're coming out of this side anyway, so you can set up for the other side. Making sure that the shin is parallel to the top of your mat, and then trying to stack the shins. I'm going to support my right leg here, hands beside you, slightly behind you, flexing the ankles, and inhale tall, and exhale lean forward. Stay here 3 more cycles of breath. Breathing in and breathing out. Inhale, exhale. One more time, inhale and exhale. Inhale, come up and release that side. All right, so we'll set up for a wide leg forward fold now. I still like to use this little support, little blanket as well, but maybe on a lower height. So sitting with your legs wide and coming to the edge of that support, the tighter you are, the higher you'll need to be on a support. So you might even need to sit on a bolster. But we'll start with the ankles flexed up so the toes are up towards my shins. The hands will come behind me. And with the inhale, come tall, and with the exhale, lean forward. If this is enough, stay here. Wherever you feel the stretch, you stay. And if you can tolerate more, then you start to lean forward. If you want to support your forehead, this is a great option, maybe even stacking the block some more. But just taking any variations that work for you. I like to grab the toes, the feet to help anchor me. But see if you can, with the inhale, really breathe deeply into the back body, the side of your rib cage. And as you exhale, see if you can come a little bit more forward. Inhale, exhale. One more time, inhale, exhale. Inhale, come up. Okay, and then we'll move the block off to the side. With running, we get really tight in our obliques and our quadratus lumborum, the side lumbar muscle. So this next posture, this variation, I like to do after every run, but at least try and do it once a week if you can. So we'll take the left hand and reach for that left ankle, shin, toes, wherever you can. The key here is not so much how far you're going, but that you're able to rotate. So rotate that top shoulder behind you, and you'll feel this along the side, maybe along the front part of your torso. Now, for me, on tight days, I'm not able to rotate too far. But if you can get a lot of rotation, then it's safe to lift your arm up. Feel what it feels like to have your hand just at 90 degrees to the shoulder and rotate back there versus rounding to reach. And you see how my shoulders close up? So try to keep that top shoulder back and reach up as you rotate your heart to the ceiling. Then you'll really feel this here. So one more, full breath in, deep breath out. Then inhale to rise up, and exhale, we'll go to the other side. Same variation, inhale, lift the heart. Exhale, rotate the top shoulder back. Inhale, reach your hand up. Exhale, twist even more. Last few breaths, keep reaching, keep rotating, breathing in, breathing out. Inhale, exhale, inhale, rise up. All right, we'll bring the knees together, and we'll do one of my favorite poses, Shavasana, but with a little bit more of a heart opening. So what we'll do is have the block for your head, the bolster just underneath the heart, and what we want to try and create, the goal of this position here, as with running, when we're closed here, it's really hard to take a deep breath in. And so if you're doing this in your warm-up especially, this is a great one to do to help open the rib cage, open your respiratory center so you can take a full deep breath. So you can maximize the use of your respiratory muscle. So we'll start to lean back, and the bolster will come just below the armpits, If it's underneath your low back, that's too far. And then make sure your head is supported so that the chin is above the height of the forehead. And just let your arms rest, your legs rest, your belly be soft. And take a deep breath into the belly. Exhale, side out. One more breath in. Exhale, side out. Then let go of any breath control. And just take the next 2 minutes here to relax and to observe your body, your breath. And you can begin to slowly rise, wake up, deepen the breath. Bend one knee at a time and roll onto your side and slowly come up. So maybe the Shavasana before the run you weren't feeling, hopefully you were, but definitely in the cool down, try not to miss it. So let's come back to that tall sitting position, this time not in a painful toe stretch, ankle stretch, but just in this nice grounded position. And taking a breath in and a breath out. And thank you for joining me. Thanks for tuning in. I hope to see you soon. Namaste.